Alright, sorry about the delay, but welcome back to another episode of Honored Madman. Today we're going to be talking about Elden Ring's famous Burger King masks, the Glintstone crowns. A lot of people have said these are sort of like the Mask of the Father from Dark Souls 1, but to me they resemble the Mask of Pharos from Dark Souls 2 a little more, the one that makes you cry basically and covered in water every time you wear it. But it pretty much makes you immune to fire damage, so that was pretty cool. Anyway, these masks or crowns were awarded to particularly skilled and accomplished members of the Academy after achieving mastery in a particular field of study. These masks are crafted in the image of the founding sorcerers of each of the schools of sorcery, or at least the ones taught at the Academy. For example, you can find various portraits of these sorcerers throughout the Academy of Raya Lucaria, the debate parlor being a good place where you could see all of them displayed. So starting with the Olivines Glintstone crown, this particular school of magic or conspectus came from a sorcerer named Lazuli, who we can actually sort of meet in the game. I say sort of because you don't really talk to him, he just sort of is sitting there and then he kind of gives you a spell. But this founding level sorcerer originated in the town of sorcery known as Celia, a Nox-built town of assassins that housed at least one alabaster lord and was the same place that General Radon learned magic from. The crown itself is set with a blue glintstone, which is sort of an homage to the glintstone that Lusat himself wears. It's sort of taken over his whole body because his manchettes are referred to as sort of corrupted by these blue glintstones, and maybe it's what Selene means when she says he's nigh on a child of the stars by now. Anyways, though, the Olivines crown is sort of carved in his original likeness before he became a glintstone. But Lusat pretty much founded the study of meteors at Raya Lucaria, and it's no doubt that his presence there attracted other sorcerers from Celia, who sought to follow in his footsteps. These are likely the people we see wearing the Olivines crowns. Next up, we have the Haima or the Haima Glintstone crown. It's really pointy and it's hooded, so it's impossible to say if it has a glintstone set on the top of it, but it's worn by the famous battle mages who are found far and wide throughout the lands between. It was likely awarded to them after they mastered the gavel and the cannon sorceries, which are actually two of my favorite sorceries in the game. I mean, one's like an artillery shot and the other one's a conjured blue hammer. Now, they should have given us a faith version of the hammer, the one that Margit uses, but I digress. So, followers of this particular study sought the means of power to quell conflicts. And when a war broke out and the Academy sealed its doors, only the battle mages were the ones who ventured out, because as they saw it, seclusion was no way to foster discovery, and only a convenient means of escape. That alone should tell you, all you need to know about the followers of the Haima Conspectus. I mean, these guys wield stone clubs. It's pretty fucking cool. Anyways, true to the descriptions that we read, I mean, two of them made it even as far as Mikla's Halictree. And there's others too. You could find one near the Celia Hideaway and another near the Dominula Windmill Village in Landell. Their crown is also set with a red blindfold over the eyes, which is similar to the Nomad crown that I'll get to later. I could only assume it's due to the fact that they're both schools that involve traveling far from the Academy, and maybe the blindfold is there to signify that. Next up, we've got the Karolos Conspectus Glintstone crown. Now, this was considered the oldest and most venerated of all the schools of study at the Academy, as it involves the study of comets, which calls back to the ancestors of the sorcerers and the original founders of the Academy, the astrologers, who studied the stars through their telescopes and eventually discovered sorcery as a whole. This ancient school of study was founded by Azur, a Grand Master who, like Lusat, is sort of becoming a glintstone. He's actually located over at the Hermit Village, where a bunch of demi-humans have slaughtered a bunch of celebrants, and he's teaching these demi-humans sorcery. Or his followers are, at least. These scholars mainly studied comets, though few were ever capable of actually manifesting and summoning an actual comet. Oftentimes they would fail to create the comet, but would create a smaller version of a comet, or perhaps two comets that shoot in a spiral instead. Still useful, but not as powerful as an actual comet. But it all seems to be in some kind of an effort to recreate Azur's founding sorcery, the Great Azur Comet, which is like a one-shot on damn near anything. Sort of like magic hyper beam is what it looks like to me. The crown itself is set with blue-green glintstones in homage to the glintstones that have now corrupted the great master Azur, meaning that these blue-green glintstones sort of represent Azur's legacy at the academy, despite the fact that they basically took over him down the road. I guess that's what you get when you play around with the primeval current, though. Anyways, next up we have the heretical Lazuli sorcerers. Now, the followers of this conspectus believed that there was equality between the moon and stars, meaning there was equal between the Academy's beliefs and that of the Carian royal family's beliefs. This was seen as heresy to the Academy, but they didn't seem to mind it, as there's some wandering around, which could be due to the fact that the Queen took back over and is allowing that, because we also see some at the Carian Manor. But anyway, it appears the Lazuli were loyal to the Carians during the Civil War, so perhaps the Carians don't mind them. Anyway, they mainly just believed in the following of Carian sorceries and moon sorceries. In fact, they even wore bright white robes, which was in stark contrast to the dark navy blue robes that almost all the other schools wore, to show their dedication to the moon. Anyway, the crown itself is set with these dark blue glintstones, which I'm assuming reference Carian magic, as they sort of appear to be dark blue, whereas normal glintstone magic is sort of a bluish green most of the time. But then again, maybe I'm colorblind. But in combat, they mainly use Carian glint blades when you get close, and then they'll shoot a spiral fucking comet at you from far away. At least their ghost will when you're riding through Celia. At least I think it's them. Anyway, moving on. The Hierodas crown, which is worn by errant sorcerer Wilhelm, and I think that's it, but there might be some other examples you could find. Anyway, Wilhelm was a pretty important tarnish. He glimpsed the primal current and didn't go insane, so there's that. This crown doesn't appear to be set with any gems. Instead, it has a black sort of cap-like thing on the head, and also sports the same red blindfold as the Haima glintstone crown that the battle mages wear, which again, I'm pretty sure just signifies that they travel beyond the walls of the academy and study. There isn't really much to what they studied, as all it really says about them is that they studied abroad, They studied things far away from the academy. So they seem to be, at least to me, as like these jacks of all trades. They'll like sort of use whatever magic they've come across in their travels. Now, speaking of a jack of all trades, next up we have the Twin Stage Glintstone Crown, which was awarded to those who had achieved mastery in all forms of Glintstone sorcery at the academy. Now, where I think that the Hierodas scholars sort of knew a little about a lot of things, these guys knew a lot about a lot of things. At least when it came to the academy top bullshit. They likely don't know anything about death sorceries or magma sorceries or anything like that. Anyway, this crown sort of depicts two heads fused together with different colored glintstones set at the top. One, of course, being the light greenish blue, and the other one being just the normal blue, signifying Masters Lusat and Azur respectively, that even though they were kicked from the academy, their lineage at least is still being respected. Anyway, there's not much else to say about these guys other than the fact that they were considered the elites, and that their helmet was the most off-putting out of all of them. Now on to the Witch's Glintstone Crown. A unique crown awarded to a scholar who excelled in her studies, which also merited the title of Witch. That's the description, at least. Now that seems to reference Renala a bit, because she was called the Full Moon Witch, but I don't think it's of her or in her likeness, because it doesn't look anything like her. Obviously Selen wears this, and I doubt it's in her likeness, but it could be. I mean, I haven't unmasked her, and it's been a while since I've seen the video of all the characters unmasked. So that leads to a mystery of whose image this crown was crafted in. It's uniquely set with green glintstones, which is unlike the blue-green ones that we see on the Karolos one. And besides on Selen, the only other place we see that crown is on that body in Celavis's rape basement. So it's really tough to say who this mysterious founding level sorcerer was, although there is still a portrait and image of them, or at least several, inside the debate parlor that you can find in the academy, so they at least still have her image up. It's also the only crown that's crafted in a female's likeness, so maybe it was only given to female sorcerers, although I don't think that excluded the female sorcerers themselves from getting the other Glintstone crowns, although, who wants to wear a Jack Harlow mask? Not anybody with an ounce's sense. I'd rather wear the goddamn witch's one. Anyway, though, there's a mysterious founder that's sort of being erased from existence, it seems like, who the crown was crafted after. I was also going to mention Azur and Lusat's Glintstone crowns, but I covered all I wanted to about them when I covered the Karolos and the Olivines crowns. Plus, they're really just big glintstones and a bunch of head wraps. Lusat's looks a bit like a big blue eye or a big old marble, which is great if you want to look like some kind of a spaceman when you're running around. But one pseudo crown I thought that was worth covering was Alberich's or Alberic, the crazy sorcerer with the scythe who attacks you at the round table hold if you jump down off the balcony. Now if you alter his hat, you'll see that it's head wraps and a red glintstone, not particularly big but not particularly small either. Red glintstones are formed from the blood of sacrifices and increase aberrant, or rather thorn sorcery, which is the stuff that's used by the thorn sorcerers that follow the fire monks. Seen prominently at the Guardian's Garrison and the mountaintops of the Giants. They're often led by fire monks and prelates. Now there's only really 2 thorn sorceries in the entire game, so there's not really much use to this crown because it increases them. But they are a little fun to use. And maybe they'll be expanded on a bit in a DLC or something, because they definitely seem like something that's a bit underdeveloped. It's a bit like the blood incantations though, in that it self-damages you a little bit to use it. And it creates these massive thorns which are supposed to resemble the briars that they wrap around prisoners in the Lands Between, which is essentially like natural barbed wire. Most of this magic though is only used by criminals because of the nature of thorn magic itself being sort of inspired by the things that are used to torture prisoners and criminals alike. Some prelates even carry a massive whip that's sort of inspired by the briars of sin. I spent several days trying to farm it and had no luck and eventually gave up, but I'm sure you can actually get it. I figured it was worth mentioning because it's sort of a glintstone crown in all but name. But anyway, that's it for today. I like to think I'm back on track. There should be another video up tomorrow. I got like 4 or 5 more Elden Ring ones I want to do before I do another random one. But anyway, I hope you found the video informative. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope you learned something. But if you didn't, let me know. And if you liked the video, please like. If you didn't like it, please dislike. If you like hearing me talk about Elden Ring or other random shit, please consider subscribing. That would really help me out. And I'll see you guys next time. See ya.